Let's talk about one of the oldest and honestly one of the most raw stories ever told, the story of Job. It tackles a question that pretty much every human being is asked at some point. Why do good people suffer? And where in the world is God when your life is falling to pieces? We're going to follow his incredible journey from total devastation all the way back to restoration.
I mean, really, have you ever had a moment, or maybe a whole season of life, where it feels like the ground's just vanished beneath your feet? Maybe it was a job loss, a scary diagnosis, or a grief that just felt overwhelming. Well, this ancient story speaks right into that feeling. It's a powerful reminder that you're definitely not the first person to look up and ask why.
So to really get the gut punch of Job's suffering, we first have to understand the incredible heights from which he fell. I mean, before tragedy hit, his life wasn't just good, it was basically perfect. The absolute picture of success and blessing.
Just try to picture the most successful, respected person you can think of. That was Job. He was unbelievably wealthy. We're talking thousands of sheep, camels, oxen, a massive business operation. He had this big, wonderful family, 10 kids in all. But the most important thing, the story makes it clear he was a genuinely good person. Blameless, upright, a man of real integrity. He literally had it all.
Now get this. This is Job's first reaction. After he loses all his money and all 10 of his kids in a string of sudden, horrific disasters, these are the first words he speaks. It's just a staggering statement of faith, right in the face of a loss that's almost impossible to imagine. But as you'll see, his journey was far from over.
Yeah, the devastation, it didn't stop there. Not even close. What happened next was a series of just crushing blows that would push his body, his spirit, and his faith to the absolute limit.
Okay, so first, all in a single day, these messengers start showing up, one after another, each with worse news than the last. Raiders stole his animals, a freak fire burned his sheep, his camels were taken, his workers were killed. Poof, his entire financial world just vanished.
And then, the last messenger arrives, and he delivers the most gut-wrenching news any parent could ever hear. A powerful wind hit the house where all his kids were celebrating together, and the whole thing collapsed. All 10 of them, gone. The personal loss was just total.
And if you think it couldn't get any worse, you'd be wrong. The test then got intensely personal. Job was hit with these agonizing sores all over his body, from head to toe. So now he's lost his wealth, his entire family, and he's losing his own health and dignity, just left to sit in a pile of ashes.
This is where the story pivots. It moves from all this external tragedy to a fierce internal battle. Job has been stripped of everything. All he has left is his voice. And believe me, he uses it to wrestle with God about the meaning of all this pain. Job doesn't just sit there in quiet acceptance anymore. Oh no, he cries out. He curses the day he was even born. He argues with God, demanding to know what he possibly could have done to deserve this. But see, this isn't him losing his faith. This is what real, honest faith can look like. He's wrestling with God, not walking away.
And then his friends show up, and after sitting with him in silence for a while, they start talking. And here is the central conflict. On one side, you have Job's raw, honest, desperate question, why? And on the other side, you have his friend's simple and frankly cruel answer, well, you must have sinned. They do what so many of us do. They try to slap an easy black and white answer on a problem that is messy and painful and anything but easy.
And yet, in the middle of all of it, the pain, the arguing with his friends, crying out to God, Job says this. It's an absolutely incredible statement. He's basically saying, even if this kills me, even if it feels like God himself is the one doing it, I will still place my trust in him. It's just this defiant, beautiful declaration of faith from the absolute bottom.
So after weeks and weeks of this agonizing debate, God finally answers. But not in the way anyone expected. He doesn't show up with a PowerPoint presentation explaining everything. He shows up in a whirlwind, a storm of just awesome divine power.
And God's response, well, it isn't an answer at all. It's a series of questions. He starts challenging Job, asking him about the deepest mysteries of creation. Job, where were you when I made the world? Can you command the morning? Do you know where the lightning comes from? He doesn't explain Job's suffering. He reveals his own infinite wisdom and power over a universe that is so much bigger and more complex than Job ever realized.
And that right there is the turning point of the entire book. See, the goal was never to give Job a neat little answer that explained away his pain. The goal was to give Job a bigger, more awe-inspiring vision of God himself. Job's need for an answer was totally replaced by the presence of the one who is the answer.
So what in the world does this mean for us, right now? How can this ancient story about a man sitting in ashes give us any kind of hope or a roadmap for our own struggles? Well, let's look at a few things we can take away.
Job's story really models a different way to trust. First, it teaches us to be completely honest in our prayers. God can handle your anger, your questions, your doubts. Second, it shows us the power of real community, not friends who have all the answers, but friends who will just sit with you in the ashes. It also gives us permission to lament, to actually grieve our losses deeply. And finally, it encourages us to hold on to the promise of God's goodness, even when we can't see it or feel it.
And here's how the story wraps up. It's just beautiful. After Job has this incredible encounter with God, and after he humbly prays for the very friends who judged him so harshly, God restores everything he lost. And this isn't just about getting his stuff back. It's this powerful picture of redemption and new beginnings.
And the restoration wasn't just a return to normal. It was abundant. God gave him double what he had before. He also blessed him with a new family, 10 more children. Now, this isn't some guarantee that life will always work out this way, but it is a powerful symbol of God's ability to bring life and hope out of what looks like absolute destruction.
So, I want to leave you with this final thought. The story of Job completely flips our perspective on suffering. It asks us to consider a radical idea. What if the hardest times in your life aren't proof that God has left you, but are actually a painful, difficult invitation, an invitation to find him in a way you never could have when things were easy, to discover that his presence is the only answer you ever really needed?